We are live.
Right. Good morning, directors. It is 9:32. Welcome. This morning, we are calling the meeting of the San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency and the Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor Agency meeting to order. We will begin with an invocation from Director Cynthia Connors, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Director Anthony Beal. Please rise.
Please rise for the invocation and the pledge. Creator of all things, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of Orange County. Thank you here and now for the ability to be public servants. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service and remind us that we are stewards of the people's trust. Guide us to be the servant leaders that we should be. Help us to see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us and to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with respect and appreciation. Be with our residents and those who use our roads and keep them safe and healthy. In stressful times, renew us with the joy of helping to build a better community. In your many names I pray, amen.
Amen. And we'll now have the pledge led by Director Beal.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Would you please join me in saluting the flag of our great nation? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director Connors, and thank you, Director Beal. Madam Clerk, if you can please call the roll.
Good morning, Madam Chair and honorable directors. Kaylee Doolittle, clerk of the board. I will now proceed with the roll call. Chair Wong.
I'm present.
Vice Chair Miller.
Here.
Director Beal.
Here.
Director Chafee. Director Lombard.
Here.
Director Murphy.
Here.
Director Trevor O'Neill.
Here.
Director Voigt.
Here.
Vice Chair Will O'Neill. Director Connors.
Here.
Director Heft.
Here.
Director Hurt.
Here.
Director Minigar.
Present.
Alternate Stevens.
Here.
Director Vic-Sorick.
Here.
Chair Kelly.
Here.
Director Bartlett. Director Khan.
Here.
Director Penaloza. Director Taylor.
Here.
Director Wagner.
Here.
Director Chamberlain.
Here.
Looping back, Director Chafee. Vice Chair Will O'Neill. Director Bartlett.
This is alternate Global. I'm representing for Supervisor Bartlett this morning.
Noted, thank you. Director Penaloza. Madam Chair, noting the absence of Director Chafee, Vice Chair Will O'Neill, and Director Penaloza, we have quorum on both boards.
Great, thank you very much. Did we receive any public comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time during live public broadcasting, members of the public may address the joint boards of directors regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the joint boards of directors, but no action may be taken on off-agenda items unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person and 20 minutes for all comments unless the chair, subject to the approval of the board of directors, set different time limits. Madam Chair, we did receive one public comment.
Okay, thank you. Please begin reading the public comment.
Public comment received from Jay Doe. I will begin reading now. Everyone listening, take whatever Michelle Schumacher and the cronies, excuse me, in her cesspool say about TCA with a grain of salt. They are being advised by Harvey Englander's PR firm. Look him up and you'll learn about he uses PRs to take down big brands and organizations. The city of San Clemente just renewed another contract with him for hundreds of thousands of dollars. His number one job is to take down the TCA. Michelle Schumacher is paid by him. Everything Michelle Schumacher and her cronies say and write is PR spin or flat out lies. She always points out how much TCA spends on PR, but San Clemente is the only one with a PR firm now, and they are paying a pretty penny. And Michelle Schumacher is making money off of TCA. On Facebook, Michelle Schumacher posts old news stories, old videos, old receipts, old everything. She purposely misleads people to believe her old lies are new truths. She purposely spreads lies and passes them off as facts. The campaign that Michelle Schumacher is the face of is tacky and lacks character and integrity. She says Supervisor Lisa Bartlett bends over for the building industry. She calls Caltrans Ryan Chamberlain an ass bite. She says the TCA bleeps off people that other people bleep TCA's nipples. She talks about TCA being in bed with people and alludes to sexual activities and orgies. She thinks it's funny to call CEO Samuel Jackson because they are both Black men. San Clemente might want to pick someone with higher ethics and literacy to be the face of their fraudulent campaign. Sincerely, Jay Doe, into public comment.
Thank you. As with previous meetings, I'm asking directors from both boards to raise their Zoom hand if they have any questions or comments regarding any of the items today. As a reminder, those participating via teleconference can press *9 to raise your hand. If you have technical difficulties, please text the clerk or CEO and they will let me know. We have quite a few items on our agenda today, including closed sessions for both boards and Foothill Eastern. So I am asking your support in helping to advance our work in a meaningful fashion and starting with the consent calendars. Starting with the San Joaquin Hills consent calendar items 1 through 3, 5, 7 through 10. Are there any directors who wish to pull an item? Please utilize the hand raising feature. What number is that? Have
I
a
think it's
number.
Wagner, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Sorry,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Briefly on the minutes for both boards. Usually it is recorded which directors voted no on a particular item, and in these minutes, at least I and I think a couple of others had voted no on some items. I think it's the budget, and it isn't recorded. I'd like it recorded which directors are the nay votes, please. And with that amendment, I would certainly move the minutes.
Okay.
And we have made that up.
Oh, you have made that update? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Wagner. Anybody else? Okay, with that,
Chair Kelly.
oh, Chair Kelly.
I just moved the item.
Okay, motion to move the consent item by Chair Kelly with the amendments noted by Supervisor Wagner. Do I have a second?
This is Director Connors. I'll second.
Okay, second by Director Connors. Madam Clerk, please take roll call for vote.
Chair Kelly? Vice Chair Will O'Neill? Director Bartlett, or Alternate Goebel?
Yes.
Director Connors?
Yes.
Director Heft,
Yes.
Director Hurt,
Yes.
Director Khan,
Yes.
Director Minigar,
Aye.
Director Penaloza, Alternate Stevens,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Vic Sorick,
Aye.
Director Wagner,
Aye.
looping back, Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Vice Chair Will O'Neill, Director Penaloza. Madam Chair, noting the absence of Vice Chair Will O'Neill and Director Penaloza, the item passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the Foothill Eastern Board, are there any directors who wish to pull the consent items, which is items number 1 through 2, 4, 6, 7 through 8, and 10?
Madam
Director,
Chair, this is Director Voigt from Lake Forest. I'd like to move the consent calendar, duly noting the addition to the notes, the minutes that Director Wagner would like to add. I'd like to move the minutes for Foothill Eastern.
okay, thank you. Director Murphy?
Thank you. I'll go ahead and second the motion, moving things along, assuming there's nothing else to discuss.
Okay, thank you. The motion has been made by Director Voigt and second by Director Murphy. Director Murphy, your hand is up. Oh, there we go. All right, Madam Clerk, if you please take roll for a vote.
Chair Wong,
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller,
Aye.
Alternate Goebel,
Yes.
Director Beal,
Aye.
Director Chafee, Director Kelly,
Yes.
Thank you. Director Khan,
Yes.
Director Lombard,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Aye.
Director Trevor O'Neill,
Aye.
Director Penaloza, Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Voigt,
Yes.
Director Wagner,
Aye.
looping back, Director Chafee, Director Penaloza. Madam Chair, noting the absence of Director Chafee and Director Penaloza, the item passes unanimously.
Thank you. We will now move on to board business. And as a reminder, if any directors have any questions, please use the raise hand feature. Item number 11, our annual investment portfolio review as of June 30th, 2021. And this is our annual presentation of our board investment portfolio. This item is only for information and does not require any action by the board. Mr. Mullen?
Good morning. Howard Mallon, Director of Finance for the agencies. This item was presented to the Joint Finance and Investment Committee on July 28th. And I am here to introduce the agency's investment advisor. From that investment advisor is Jason Schmidt, the Deputy Chief Investment Officer of Chandler Asset Management, and he will be giving the presentation.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Going to start off on talking about the agency's investment portfolio. And so we'll be reviewing the results for the fiscal year 2021. Next page, please. And so the agency's primary investment objectives are safety, liquidity, and then finally return. The agencies have a limited investable universe governed by state law, the agency's investment policies, the bond indentures with an emphasis on capital preservations. The investments are typically held to maturity, and state law does not permit purchasing or holding stock of any individual companies. Moving on to the next page. The agency's investment strategy utilizes a disciplined investment approach, providing liquidity when needed. They also invest in a very well-diversified portfolio of securities that balance both risk and return. Next page, please. The agencies earned approximately $19 million in fiscal year 2021 from a combined $1.59 billion portfolio. The returns of the portfolios exceeded their benchmarks despite the challenging economic and financial market environment. In addition, the value of the agency's securities in the portfolio remained stable, adhering to its primary tenets of safety, liquidity, and finally return. Next page. The agency's flexible investment strategy succeeded by performing well while maintaining liquidity when needed to achieve their long-term goals. By limiting new corporate purchases into the portfolios, the agencies are well positioned to take advantage of opportunities in the future. Next page. With this in mind, let's review the characteristics and performance of the agency's investment portfolio. Throughout fiscal year 2021, as expected, securities purchased many years ago with higher book yields matured off and were reinvested into a lower interest rate environment, causing the book yield to fall. But the return of the agency's portfolios were above their benchmarks and benefited from narrowing credit spreads as the economic recovery took hold. With that in mind, let's look at the results for Foothill Eastern. The average book yield increased in the Foothill Eastern cash flow, including unrestricted reserves, from 1.35%, decreased from 1.35% to 0.71. And the indentured reserves portfolio from 1.81 to 1.29. In the San Joaquin Hills portfolios, similar is true. The average book yield of the portfolio, including unrestricted reserves, decreased from 1.66% to 1.09%. And in the indentured funds, it decreased from 1.85 to 1.24. Then looking at the San Joaquin, the total return of the portfolios benefited from narrowing credit spreads that led to an increase in the value of the existing bonds held in the portfolio. So the annual return of the cash flow, including unrestricted reserves in FY 2021, was 0.42%, while the indentured funds annual return for fiscal year 2021 was 0.35%, which was around 28 basis points or 0.28% above that of the benchmark. Moving on to the next page. Now that the total market value of the Foothill Eastern portfolio was approximately $772 million on 6/30. The funds are segmented and managed in specific groups depending upon their sources and uses of funds. The two largest groups are the cash flow, including unrestricted reserves, which was $445 million, and the indentured funds group, which was $244 million. Moving to the next page. The overall asset allocation of the portfolio is well diversified with many different types of securities. The largest amounts are held in U.S. agency and treasury securities, which are $303 million and $177 million, respectively. Moving to the next page. The San Joaquin portfolio has an approximate market value of about $818 million as of June 30. The funds are segmented and managed into specific groups, just as they are in the Foothill Eastern portfolio. The two largest groups are the cash flow, including unrestricted reserves, which was $228 million, and the indentured reserves group, which was $202 million. Next, please. The San Joaquin Hills portfolio is a well-diversified portfolio, also just like that of the Foothill Eastern portfolio. The largest amounts are held in U.S. Treasury and agency securities with $462 million and $147 million, respectively. Next. Let's take a look for a moment and discuss how the current economic environment may affect the agency's investment strategies moving forward. The labor markets continue to recover from the pandemic lows experienced in March of 2020 and April of 2020. Although the recovery has been swift, economic employment continues to be below pre-pandemic levels with room for improvement. Moving next. The rapid pace of the economic recovery, supply chain disruptions, and a large amount of fiscal and monetary stimulus in the system have helped fuel heightened inflation measures. Market participants remain concerned about higher levels of inflation although monetary authorities remain steadfast in their view that the current levels are transitory and that the rate of inflation is likely to subside. We continue to monitor the level of inflation as its impact on financial markets, and in particular interest rates, it's likely to impact those markets. Moving forward, interest rates remain near historic lows. Interest rates on securities less than 5 years are relatively unchanged, while interest rates on securities longer than 5 years to maturity have fallen as market participants remain concerned about the pace of new COVID-19 variants and its potential impact on economic activity here and abroad. Moving forward, the path of interest rates is inherently unclear and is magnified by the impact of the large amount of fiscal and monetary stimulus. Our strategy moving forward is to continue to maintain a disciplined approach and achieve our duration targets and ensure that the portfolios remain flexible given the strong economic environment and the elevated rate of inflation, providing the agencies with the ability to react to those changes if financial market conditions change. Moving forward. Continued stimulus and supply chain issues have led to historically steep yield curve. We continue to maintain a relative barbell structure to take advantage of higher yields on securities further out the yield curve while maintaining exposure to shorter term securities to balance out the portfolio and achieve our duration targets. In addition, we look for opportunities to purchase additional corporate securities as opportunities present themselves in order to increase earnings of the agency's portfolios. And with that, this concludes my presentation and review of the agency's investment portfolio.
Thank you, Jason. Are there any questions from our directors? I don't see any hands up. Thank you for the information. It's good to see that our portfolio has done well within this challenging year that we had, and hopefully we'll continue to do well. Thank you so much. Next item is our annual internal audit plan. Item 12 involves the recommendation from 2 of the board committees to adopt our fiscal year 2022 internal audit plan. After the presentation, I will be looking for motions and votes from each board, starting with San Joaquin. Mr. Walker.
Good morning, honorable chairs and directors. I'm Greg Walker, your manager of internal audit, and I'll be presenting the proposed internal audit annual plan. Next slide, please. The internal audit department performs audits to provide an independent objective review of the agency's financial, administrative, and operational activities. This draft fiscal year 22 internal audit plan was developed through soliciting input from the Joint Finance and Investment Committee and the Joint Toll Operations Committee. Staff presented to each committee a brief review of fiscal year 21 activity, an overview of the fiscal year 22 plan, and then had focused discussion on those audit activities that align with each committee's specific oversight responsibility. The committees were comfortable with the scope and reasoning of the audit plan and recommended board approval. Next slide, please. This is a summary listing of the audit activities planned for fiscal year 22. The first several items in the list are periodic audits and activities that are conducted by the internal audit department. These include things such as follow-ups on prior audits, supports to the external financial statement audit, an independent review of allocation percentages for the annual budget, regular audits of transponder inventory and operations, and audits of development impact fees collected by the agencies. And those development fee audits typically include 7 to 9 member agencies each year. The next 2 items following these periodic audits are 2 audits of toll operations contracts. Staff will audit the contract for TCA's road system maintenance provider, and later in the year, TCA's customer service provider. These contracts are performance-based, and they do have penalties and incentives based on key performance indicators. So we will audit a selection of monthly status reports and the associated invoices to assess if the contractor is capturing the performance data and if that data is accurately reflected for those penalties or incentives per the contract. The next item is a combination of audits and support that internal audit provides for completion of the PCI report on compliance. That includes coordinating the final completion, signing, and submission of the report to TCA's credit card processor. It also includes administering and reviewing vulnerability scans. And later in the year, we'll actually perform a spot check audit that is designed to be a check of PCI controls prior to the annual assessment, but that's conducted by a third-party assessor for the following year. And then the last two, the TPS customer service review. This is intended to be a post-implementation review of security and access settings for the new customer service system once that is implemented. And then lastly, we'll be looking again this year at the area of time and materials contracts. But this year, the audit's intended to be more of an ongoing audit throughout the year, where we'll audit selected invoices as they're received for payment to validate labor rates, billed hours, overhead rates against the contract requirements. Next slide, please. So the recommendation for both boards is to approve the fiscal year 22 internal audit plan. And this concludes my presentation, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Walker. Any directors have any questions? Please use your raise hand function. I don't see any hands up. I'm certainly looking forward to, having this audit being conducted mainly on the time and materials contracts, because on the contract committee last year, we moved so many contracts into the time and material column. So it's important to have this type of audit to make sure that we are getting the services that we're contracted for, as well as keeping a lid on our expenditure. So thank you very much for the information. I don't see any hands. So with that, I am looking for a motion from the San Joaquin Hills Board for the item.
This is Cynthia Connors. I'll move the item.
Okay, motion to adopt by Director Connors. Do I have a second?
John Taylor, a second.
Okay, second by Director Taylor. Madam Clerk, can you please take roll call?
Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Vice Chair Will O'Neill, Alternate Goebel,
Yes.
Director Connors,
Yes.
Director Heft,
Yes.
Director Hurt,
Yes.
Director Khan,
Yes.
Director Minigar,
Aye.
Director Penaloza, Alternate Stevens,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Vic Sorick,
Aye.
Director Wagner, looping back, Vice Chair Will O'Neill, Director Penaloza, Director Wagner, you may be on mute. Madam Chair, noting the absence.
Aye. Wagner, aye.
Noted, thank you. Madam Chair, noting the absence of Vice Chair Will O'Neill and Director Penaloza, the item passes unanimously.
Okay, over on the Foothill Eastern, I'm looking for a motion to adopt by any directors.
Madam Chair, this is Director Voigt from Lake Forest. I'd like to move.
Okay, moved by Director Voigt. Looking for a second.
I'll second. This is Director Murphy.
Okay, second by Director Murphy. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please take a roll call.
Chair Wong,
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller,
Aye.
Alternate Goebel,
Yes.
Director Beal,
Aye.
Director Chafee, Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Khan,
Yes.
Director Lombard,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Aye.
Director Trevor O'Neill,
Aye.
Director Penaloza, Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Voigt,
Yes.
Director Wagner,
Aye.
Looping back, Director Chafee. Director Penaloza. Madam Chair, noting the absence of Director Chafee and Director Penaloza, the item passes unanimously.
All right, thank you, directors. Item number 13, northbound State Route 241 channelizers project construction and inspection replacement services. This is a Foothill Eastern only item to advance the operation and safety improvements on the 241 as a precursor to the 241-91 express connector. Ms. Su?
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Huang and honorable directors. I'm Juliet Su, Director of Design and Construction at the agencies. This item is the award of a contract and a task order for the construction, inspection, and replacement services for the northbound 241 channelizers project. This item was presented at the Joint Capital Programs and Projects Committee meeting on July 28th, and the committee unanimously recommended approval of this item to the Board of Directors. Next slide. This is an image of the northbound 241 taken pre-pandemic during the PM peak period. During the pandemic, traffic on State Route 241, similar to other highways, saw a drop in traffic volumes. However, as you may have experienced, traffic has steadily been returning to pre-pandemic conditions. And during the month of June, the 241 has experienced congestion levels similar to pre-pandemic conditions. In the northbound direction, 241 is a 4-lane facility approaching State Route 91, with the 2 left lanes, lane number 1 and 2, diverging to westbound 91, and the 2 right lanes, lanes number 3 and 4, diverging to eastbound 91. Queues form during evening peak hours in the 2 right lanes of northbound 241 for vehicles trying to access eastbound 91. And you can see that in this photo shown here. As a result, some vehicles in lane numbers 1 and 2 slow down or stop to cut in front of the queue, resulting in unexpected or sudden stops for the free-flowing traffic that's in lane numbers 1 and 2. Next slide. In 2017, the agency, in coordination with CHP and Caltrans, installed approximately 1,700 feet of double white stripe between lanes number 2 and 3. And we also installed additional signage in response to the vehicle queue jumping to help mitigate the behavior. These initial measures more clearly separated traffic, and the regulatory signs allow CHP to cite drivers that make the queue jumping movement. However, the queue jumping has continued to persist. Next slide. Through discussions with CHP and further coordination with Caltrans, it was recommended to add additional advanced signage and striping and install channelizers to provide a physical barrier between lanes number 2 and 3 to address the queue jumping behavior. The northbound 241 channelizers project will install these improvements. The improvements include increasing the length of the double white stripe to approximately 1 mile, and adding channelizers at a 6-foot spacing along 1 mile length of the double white stripe to create the physical barrier. These improvements are an interim condition needed to address the current vehicle queue jumping until the 241-91 express connector is constructed. The interim condition is anticipated to remain in place, during which time the agency will inspect and replace the channelizers on an as-needed basis to keep the channelizers in a safe and operable condition. Next slide. The scope of the contract consists of 2 phases. The first is the construction phase to install the channelizers. Then the second phase will be to inspect and replace channelizers as needed until the 241-91 Express Connector project construction begins in mid-2023. Next slide. An RFP for these services was issued on May 13th. We received 2 proposals, one from Peterson Chase and one from Sterndal Enterprises. From the proposal materials and the interview, Peterson Chase demonstrated greater state highway experience and provided a clear approach to the inspection and replacement activities that showed their ability to quickly respond to the needs of the project. Their approach also included a contingency plan for keeping materials on hand at a local maintenance yard. In addition, Peterson Chase's price proposal offered the most cost-effective option. Next slide. To support the project, 2 additional items are needed. Authorization of a task order for on-site biological monitoring during construction, and a finding that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA. The biological monitoring services will include delineating environmentally sensitive areas and performing pre-construction nesting bird surveys during avian nesting seasons, and performing monitoring and environmental awareness training for all field personnel. Staff reached out to 2 firms on the environmental on-call bench. A proposal was received from SOMIS, and the second firm did not submit. SOMIS has performed biological monitoring for several TCA projects and have provided sound technical work and excellent services. For the CEQA determination, because the project will not involve any capacity enhancements and will consist of minor alterations to existing facilities, the project has been found to be categorically exempt from CEQA. Next slide. This table shows a summary of the requested authorizations. For construction, inspection, and replacement services, the requested contract amount is $1,043,392 to Peterson Chase, with a 10% contingency of $104,339. And for the biological monitoring services, the requested task order amount is $23,760 for SOMIS, with a 10% contingency of $2,376. Next slide. So the recommendations to the board are as follows. Authorization of a contract to Peterson Chase for the construction, inspection, and replacement services for the channelizers. Second is authorization of a task order to SOMIS for biological monitoring services. The third is authorization of contingency up to 10% of the value of each of the contract and task order items. And fourth, the finding that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Julia. Any directors have any questions? All right, I don't see any hands raised. This is a very important project for the 241, primarily for safety reasons. So I am seeking a motion to adopt staff's recommendation, the 4 items to authorize the execution of the 2 contracts, as well as the 10% contingency. So I have a motion from any director.
I move that recommended action. This is Trish Kelly.
All right, moved by Chair Kelly.
I'll second that from Scott Voigt from Lake Forest.
All right, second by Director Boyce. Madam Clerk, if you can please take roll call vote.
Chair Wong?
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller?
Aye.
Director Bartlett, Alternate Goebel?
Yes.
Director Beal?
Aye.
Director Chafee?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Yes.
Director Khan?
Yes.
Director Lombard? Director Murphy?
Aye.
Director Trevor O'Neill?
Aye.
Director Penaloza? Director Taylor?
Yes.
Director Voigt?
Yes.
Director
Sorry. Yes.
Director Wagner?
Aye.
Looping back, Director Lombard?
Sorry, aye.
Director Penaloza? Madam Chair, noting the absence of Director Penaloza, the item passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item number 14, 24191 Express Connector, our contracts amendments. This is another.
Apologies for the interruption. This is Wagner. I'm going to recuse myself for Levine Act reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other directors need to recuse themselves? All right, seeing none, thank you. This is another Foothill Eastern only item to continue advancing our highest priority project. I was part of the Joint Capital Committee meeting where we discussed this item in great detail and even got to hear from Director Chamberlain, whose expertise and respect within the industry is a great benefit to our boards. Our chief engineer is going to walk us through the benefits and importance of the changes that we are pursuing, as well as noting staff's diligent efforts to contain project costs by using solid engineering design practices. I appreciate staff continuing to closely coordinate with our partner agencies and keeping the board informed of the project's updates and changes such as these we're about to learn. So Mr. Spears, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, Chair Wong and honorable directors. This item pertains to contract amendments for the 24191 Express Connector project. The item was presented on July 28th to the Joint Capital Programs and Projects Committee, and the committee was unanimous in recommending approval to the board. Next slide. This is an outline for the presentation. I'll begin with traffic conditions. I'll share details regarding the design progress over the last 12 months and proposed beneficial refinements. And I'll summarize with 3 proposed contract amendments. Next slide. Both images on this slide were taken pre-pandemic, and each shows the pre-pandemic congested conditions. The left image is on the 91. The image on the right is daily congestion on 241. As Juliet mentioned, about 12 months ago, there were a lot of questions about how long it would take for traffic to return to pre-pandemic conditions. And as she noted, the answer is these conditions returned in June. During the month of June, we had multiple days where the queue on 241 exceeded 2 miles in length, extending to the top of the hill and persisting for up to 2.5 hours. Next slide, please. Regional mobility benefits. Based upon traffic studies, this project is anticipated to provide substantial travel time savings for all users in the corridor. Both general purpose lane and express lane users could experience travel time savings. The traffic studies show average annual travel time savings up to 36 hours a year for daily users of the general purpose lanes on 91. And for daily commuters using the 241 Express Connector, the average travel time savings will be up to 85 hours per year. These are substantial mobility benefits that will result from the project. Next slide. This slide shows the 4 locations of beneficial design refinements that I will be presenting today. Our team is continually looking for opportunities to improve project performance and to avoid construction cost escalation. 3 of the 4 refinements result in mitigating construction cost, providing cost avoidance. 1 of the 4 improves the project's traffic performance and is essential for design approval by Caltrans. Next slide. This first refinement is located along westbound 91, just west of Coal Canyon Interchange. The yellow line on this air photo shows the location of a 1,600-foot long retaining wall that was recently constructed by the 91 COP project by RCTC. The refined design would eliminate demolition and reconstruction of this wall by shifting the lanes a few feet towards the median. This change will reduce temporary construction impacts along 91 and will also reduce environmental impacts by avoiding an environmentally sensitive slope next to the Santa Ana River. The estimated construction cost reduction of this refinement is $500,000. Next slide, please. This second design refinement pertains to the North Connector Bridge, shown in yellow on the air photo. The original design for this bridge is a single bridge structure over 1,400 feet in length. Due to high seismic loads at this location, the original design would require large 13-foot diameter by 200-foot deep pile foundations. Piles of this size and depth are not common in highway construction and are difficult to construct. Hence, they present a risk for change orders and cost escalation. The refined design would separate this bridge into 2 separate bridges, also noted in yellow on the image. This new design includes a short bridge about 120 feet long, shown on the lower left side of the image in yellow, and a longer bridge about 1,200 feet long that begins at Gypsum Canyon Road near the number 2 call out on the image. And you can see it, the bridge extending towards Route 241. These revisions would result in the use of more conventional 6-foot diameter piles, and this approach will mitigate construction cost risk. Next slide. This third design refinement is located along eastbound 91 near the Coal Canyon interchange. The original design at this location included a large cut slope up to 130 feet high, with limits represented by the red line on these images. This grading option would generate more than 300,000 cubic yards of dirt to haul away. It's very expensive to haul away this large volume of excess material. By comparison, the yellow shaded area is a proposed retaining wall. In order to complete the design of this retaining wall, additional geotechnical investigation is needed, and there are additional design costs to design the wall. However, the estimated cost of the retaining wall is lower than the estimated cost of the slope grading. The estimated construction cost avoidance for this design refinement is in the range of $5 to $10 million. Next slide. The fourth design refinement pertains to the movement of heavy trucks through the project limits. There are approximately 75 trucks per hour that pass through Windy Ridge in the northbound direction during the peak hour. 60 of these trucks will take the eastbound direction on 91. 15 of these trucks per hour take the westbound direction. The cross section on this slide shows an overhead sign on northbound 241 on the uphill approach to the Windy Ridge Toll Plaza. The overhead sign is one of 4 signs on this uphill approach intended to organize vehicles into the correct lanes. Under this original design, eastbound traffic is in the right 3 lanes, including eastbound trucks. All westbound traffic is in the left 2 lanes. The westbound truck volume includes the 15 trucks per hour. And the eastbound express connector traffic is also signed for the left lanes. Although this original design provides very strong traffic performance, a concern was noted that westbound trucks would be moving at lower speeds near the top of the hill and would have to weave across 2 lanes. In order to address this concern, the design team worked closely with Caltrans experts to develop a design refinement. The proposed design refinement is on our next slide. The top graphic is the original design. The lower graphic is the refined design. For the refined design, per the purple callout, the eastbound express connector traffic is shifted to the far left lane next to the median. Shown in the red boxes, all truck traffic, both east and westbound, are now assigned to the far right lane. North of the Windy Ridge Toll Plaza, the westbound and eastbound lanes will be physically separated by a concrete barrier for approximately 2 miles until reaching the Route 91. This new design concept includes a truck ramp at the bottom of the hill near Route 91 that I will illustrate on the next slide. This exhibit shows the revised lane configuration at the bottom of the hill near Route 91. And to orient your viewpoint, north is to the right side of this exhibit. The proposed north to east express connector is in yellow. The north to westbound lanes are shown in red. The north to eastbound lanes are shown in green. All trucks will travel in the 2 right lanes shown in green from Windy Ridge until they reach this location. The proposed new truck ramp for westbound trucks is labeled and circled in purple. This refined design eliminates the traffic operational concern of slow-moving trucks weaving across lanes at the top of the hill near Windy Ridge. Next slide. This table provides a summary of the estimated construction cost avoidance and the associated design costs. Number 1, eliminating the retaining wall on westbound 91 at Coal Canyon is a net cost benefit estimated at $500,000. Number 2, the revised North Connector Bridge, using more conventional foundation designs, provides an estimated cost avoidance of $5 million. Number 3, eastbound 91 retaining wall to replace the large graded slope provides an estimated cost avoidance in the range of $5 to $10 million. And number 4, the improved truck movement, which is a performance enhancement, improves traffic operations and safety, and results in a cost increase of $3 million. Collectively, the estimated cost avoidance of these refinements range from $8 to $13 million. And the additional design cost required to accomplish these benefits is $1.7 million. Next slide, please. In addition to the proposed design refinements, there are 2 additional work elements that support final design: environmental revalidation and concept of operations. The environmental revalidation effort is typical for highway projects and is required to document any changes from the preliminary design to the final design. For this project, revalidations are required on SR 91 for widening work at the Coal Canyon Bridge, and on 241 for changes to the designs along 241. The revalidation efforts include updates to various technical studies to assess and document changes. Next slide. This slide shows the 91 at Coal Canyon area. As part of our project, we will be widening the westbound Coal Canyon Bridge. The Santa Ana River Trail is located along the north side of 91, and it includes a kiosk near the bridge as shown on this slide. There is a shelter, bench, and informational sign. In terms of potential noise study impacts, this is considered a sensitive receptor. When environmental tasks along Route 91 were scoped last year, noise study work was not identified at this location. However, based upon more recent coordination with Caltrans environmental staff, they have indicated that a study of noise impacts at this location will be required. Next slide. This is the eastbound slope grading and retaining wall location that I mentioned earlier. Additional geotechnical field investigation is needed in order to design the retaining wall. And prior to conducting geotechnical field work, environmental documentation and permitting are necessary. Next slide. The second support service is the concept of operations effort. The concept of operations is a planning document outlining how the tolling system will operate. It includes toll policy goals, agreements for maintenance and operations, and many project-related technical details. It is an important tool used to develop and document alignment among stakeholders. This document is particularly important for this project, which requires coordination and consensus among 3 tolling entities. Work to date has included very extensive coordination with OCTA, RCTC, Caltrans, and the Federal Highway Administration. Additional effort is needed to incorporate the policy and design decisions and to finalize the document. Next slide. This table shows a summary of the requested contract amendments. These requested amendments fit within the overall project budget. For final design services, the requested amendment is $1.69 million. For the environmental services, the request is for $234,000. For the concept of operations, the requested amendment is $41,468. As shown in the table, we are also requesting separate 10% contingencies for each of the 3 items. The contingency amounts are specific to each item and would be used to address unknown changes on an as-needed basis. The project design is currently progressing towards the 60% level. Over the next year, the design will advance through 95% and 100% milestones. As the design is advanced, there continues to be potential for additional scope items for which contingency provides a proper and useful tool for timely adjustments. Having adequate contingency is an important contract component to allow staff to address project unknowns that may arise and to move forward with necessary work without slowing down the schedule. Next slide, please. The board recommendation before you is as follows. Authorize the CEO to execute amendment to the contract with WKE to provide final design services in the amount not to exceed $1.693 million. The second, authorize the CEO to execute an amendment to the task order with LSA Associates to provide environmental planning and technical support in the amount not to exceed $234,000. The third, authorize the CEO to execute an amendment with Michael Baker International for the completion of the concept of operations in the amount not to exceed $41,468. And finally, authorize the CEO to execute amendments as needed up to 10% of the value of each specific contract or task order amendment listed above for a total not to exceed $196,944 without further action by the board. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Dave. Do we have any questions from any directors? Vice Chair Miller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dave, can you tell me what the total contingency is for this project that we authorized initially?
The number to date is approximately 1.4 million.
That's what the contingency is in the contingency today, correct?
That's correct.
And how much of that have we used to date?
Approximately $35,000.
And so my question that I posed in committee, I'm going to pose it here. Why do we need to increase the contingency? We have $1.5 million sitting there in contingency that we haven't touched. And you're asking us to increase that. This is a design part of the contract. This is not build. This is not something we're going to run into that we need to react immediately to. We always have plenty of time to come back and ask this board. And on a project like this, which is so critical to the system, I think any changes should come back and we should be made aware of them. Why do we need to increase the contingency when we have $1.5 million in contingency funds available today?
Well, it's a great question, Director, and I'll share this perspective. As I mentioned, we're approaching the 60% design submittal, and we're currently working through a number of challenging design issues. There are different disciplines that bring different perspectives to the design, and working through resolving these different perspectives, perhaps maintenance and traffic operations and design have a slightly different perspective. And getting through that process of obtaining design approval takes some time and some iterative back and forth process. And it generally results in some changes and refinements to the design. A contingency is a very helpful tool to have to work through those changes. And so that is the reason for the contingency. I'll also note that
I'm not saying that, I'm not arguing that we need a contingency. I'm saying I have $1.5 million in contingency available today. And you're asking us to increase it, but you haven't used what you have available.
And that's really a function of the
contingency that we have in place today would almost cover the design change, which I don't think you should have used your contingency to do that. That's what I'm saying. But you're saying that we need to act quickly and respond. This is design phase. Nothing is happening so fast that you don't have time to come back and ask this board for additional funds if needed, but you don't need them. You have 1.5 million sitting there today. If we're not going to use that contingency, you're going to keep coming back. Why are we issuing contingencies at all?
Well, I'll state a good question again. Thank you for the question, Director. The design process does have it's an aggressive schedule to get through the very detailed design process. There is changes that come up along the way in the course of the design that require use of contingency. And I just want to characterize that where we're at in the design process, where we're working towards 60% and between 60 and 95 is where a lot of these details daylight and come up where we really need to tap the contingency. So we've been very fortunate that we've had very limited impact on the contingency so far, but I fully expect that there's going to be some changes as a result of design details we're working through right now. And it just provides a very helpful, beneficial tool for us to have a contingency. I would like to also add that with the
contingency, you already have it and you're asking to increase it, but you haven't used what you've had. You used 35,000 of 1.5 million. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have the contingency. I believe you should have it. All I'm saying is, why are we increasing something that we haven't even touched?
Understood. I would like to just make one further clarification. So with the contingency that we're requesting on the items today, That would bring our total contingency up to 7% of the total design contract. And it's quite typical on contracts of this magnitude to have a 10% contingency. So I think that having this this slight increase of 196,000 adding to the contingency is helpful for us to have sufficient funds that we don't have to come back for these small incremental changes. But it's a matter of perspective. I understand your point, and your point is well taken.
I mean, my point is you have 1.5 million that you haven't used. You're asking to increase it by $200,000. And I just don't understand why you feel that need when anytime you have a major design change, which would be what would eat into this, if we've used 35 grand, if small things like that, it's going to take you a long time to get to 1.5 million. Why by the way, I just want to let you know, I'm fully supportive of this project. This is not a hill I'm going to die on, but it's something I did want to discuss. It concerns me, and it doesn't really concern me, but we don't use it if we don't need it. It goes back into the fund at the end. But we keep growing these pots of money, so they're not available for something else. Those funds are not available for something else because we think maybe we need it when we have 1.5 million there that we haven't even touched, and we're near the 60% mark, which, like you said, that's where most of the changes come in, is at the beginning, not as we go forward. So that's my concern.
Vice Chair Miller, I understand that perspective. Let's see if we can hear from other directors who either share your perspective or do not, and so we can have a meaningful discussion. Do you have another question, or let's just move on to discussion, Vice Chair?
You can move on. That's all I had.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to hear from other directors and their perspective. So I will start with Chair Kelly.
Yes, first of all, I would just really like to commend Mr. Spears, his staff, the design team, and Caltrans for coming up with these amendments, these changes that will, I believe this is a project that has been a long time coming and has been delayed. And this may be a case where the delays have benefited us because we have a better plan than previously planned. I love the cost reduction, the cost avoidance that these amendments will bring. And I'm totally comfortable with the contingency. It's very common to have a 10% contingency. So having only a 7% contingency is, I don't think that is a problem at all. And as a reminder, we don't spend the contingents. If we don't spend it, we don't spend it just because it's there. It's there to increase efficiencies and to keep the project streamlined and moving along and avoid further delays. So with that, I would move this recommended action.
All right, thank you, Chair Kelly. Director Murphy?
You want to look for a second before I make my comments or not? I didn't say I was seconding. I said, do you want to check for a second just to make sure we're doing things correctly?
I will second so we can have this discussion.
Great, thank you.
Director Murphy, thank you.
Thank you. I think I too am supportive of the project, certainly, as well as, and I think it's healthy that we've had the debate we've had at all levels concerning the changes. I think what I hear in Director Miller's comments is more a procedural question, because I'm going to double check with the CEO. Will this allotment of 200K or so, 196,944 to be exact, will moving that into a contingency column have any effect on our ability to do any other project?
No, Director, this is Samuel Johnson. You're correct. This is within the project budget itself, as Mr. Spears noted, and we would not take this money that we're requesting from another project, support this project, or vice versa.
Okay. Well, I kind of knew the answer to that, but what I do think is, I think Vice Chair Miller brings up a really important point. And with the level of expenditure that we get involved in on projects, perhaps a policy should be established independent of this action as to sort of, I shouldn't say sort of, as to the level of contingency related to progress on a project or somehow. And here's what I'm thinking. We're at 7, we're saying, gosh, we're only at 7, that's why we're doing this, but we really would like to be at 10. Is there just a simple way, and I don't want to do this today, I would suggest for a future action, to think about establishing a policy that says by direction, anytime a contingency goes below a certain percentage, and I'm picking a number out of the air, 5%, the information comes back to the board to look at whether to reallocate any additional funds to raise that contingency back within a comfortable level. And maybe even deciding, is 10% too much, too little, depending on projects and all. I'm just thinking that would at least be sort of a profile that would give everybody some additional assurances as to why we're either adding to a contingency or not, rather than it being project by project basis. Because I understand his point as well very clearly, especially if you look at it from a let's read it in the newspaper kind of a scenario. We have a contingency right now, as I understand it, that would actually fund the vast majority of this project, or maybe almost all of it, if we happen to have some additional economies, and we're still adding to the contingency. It's more policy than anything else, in my opinion, because the 200K will not affect us moving forward, but it's also important to look at these things over time, because otherwise this could be accentuated on a different project at much larger scales where there may be some impact. And I know the staff would never recommend that, or would at least raise it at the time. But rather than saying we always do it and 10% is the accepted thing and we're only at 7, so we must be doing it right. And I'm just summarizing there. And I know that wasn't the discussion at previous meetings that I've been a part of. But I think maybe it's a point to at least bring back individually and take a look at, I mean, how much do we have in our projects currently set in contingency, and what's been the practice in the past of use of that contingency item. So just my thoughts. I'm certainly supportive of the motion in the second, and it's an incredibly important project to the mobility for Orange County, especially for folks in my neighborhood. So appreciate the opportunity to share, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director Murphy. And I wholeheartedly agree with you that I think this is a procedural question, and that we really need to examine as a board, and how we will deal with these type of contingency issues. So I would direct our CEO to have that included in our strategic plan.
Yeah.
When we have our strategic plan meeting in December, that we include this item. It's an important topic, and it has come up in the past. So perhaps, I know we have a policy, but it's time for a revisit.
Yeah, absolutely, Madam Chair. We can take a look at it, because in listening to the board's responses, I think the one thing we probably didn't convey well enough is that it's not a arbitrary number, especially when we're in the middle of a project like this. We're looking at the risk and what those unknowns could be from here to the end. So our recommendation to increase the contingency by 200,000 and bring the total for design, if I have this right, Dave, to 1.6. That 1.6 reflects what we see as the potential unknowns to get us from this approaching 60% to the 100%. So that's an aspect that we can capture in this policy or approach, or however the boards feel we should do that, and look at that. And then the other aspect, it really comes down to what level of detail does the board want to get engaged in, right? Because I think what our practice is that when we have big changes, even if there's contingency available, we're going to bring those big changes to the board, right, to make sure you have visibility. But what Dave, what our chief engineer is highlighting is there could be a lot of little things from here to now. So if we don't have sufficient contingency the situation that I would want to avoid is having to come back to the board every month, say, we need another 30,000, we need another 50,000, we need this, while we're trying to deliver a $250 million project.
So your thought process is more of, look, here is a bigger amount in terms of contingency, let's bring it to the board, and so that there is cushion for the smaller projects, rather than use up the contingency for the larger amount now, and then later on, we're running out of money, and it's coming to the board for that $10,000 or $25,000.
Exactly.
That's the thinking you're conveying.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we've done. This is the second major amendment to the design contract that we brought to the board. So if we had done a different approach last time and used up all the contingency, the project would have gotten delayed, and we'd be coming constantly asking you for a little bit more, because Dave, the 35,000 of the contingency that you cited we used, was that in one chunk or smaller pieces?
2 smaller pieces.
Right. So coming back to the board to say, hey, we need another 17,000, or now we need another 18,000, I think some board members would get a little annoyed with that.
Okay. No, and I appreciate that. And so I think that's where Director Murphy's suggestion is a very good suggestion that I would want us to definitely follow through on it. Because as part of our strategic plan and what we'll do in the future, we're looking at all the procedures and policies we currently have. And so we need to really address the contingency issue and have a clear direction for the future. So thank you, Director Murphy, for that wonderful suggestion. Really appreciate that. Director Miller.
Yeah, I just want to clarify something. And Samuel, you and I have discussed this. This was not intended to be, you have to come back for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 every month. This was a discussion that you and I had, that when the contingency starts to get drawn down to a level that we think is becoming critical, you come back to the board and you ask to replenish the contingency. It wasn't to say, oh, we want you to come back for every little change order. That was never the intent. You and I discussed that. I'm a little disappointed that you portrayed it that way. But that's what this policy is about. Let's use what's there instead of continually adding to a contingency that hasn't even been touched yet. So this is a policy decision. I'm glad you guys are moving it into strategic. We can have that discussion there, but that's what this was about, is managing that as well, instead of just saying we're always going to add 10% and growing a contingency fund that's not even really been tapped yet. So that was my point. Thank you.
Well, Director Miller, and I think you brought up a very critical point, and I really appreciate you asking those questions both at the committee level and here. Those are, it's really important that we have a clear policy, and as well as, you know, most likely our current policy may be outdated. So having you raise the question and Director Murphy's suggestion is very important for our strategic planning in December, because let's really give clear directions for staff so that they can plan accordingly. So I really appreciate both of you for bringing this matter at this time so that we can have fruitful discussion in December, which is a reminder to all of you, do not miss the meeting because we need to address this issue as well as many other critical issues during the strategic planning. And so if you miss it, then, you know, you can't accuse me for being rude if I cut you off in the future. So I would appreciate your participation in December. So with that, we have, I don't see any more hands raised. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, if you can take a roll call vote.
Chair Wong?
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller?
Aye.
Alternate Goebel?
Yes.
Director Beal?
Aye.
Director Sheafy?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Yes.
Director Khan?
Yes.
Director Lombard?
Aye.
Director Murphy?
Aye.
Director Trevor O'Neill?
Aye.
Director Penaloza? Director Taylor?
Aye.
Director Voigt?
Yes.
Looping back, Director Penaloza. Madam Chair, noting the recusal of Director Wagner and the absence of Director Penaloza, the item passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, and my appreciation again to both Vice Chair Miller and Director Murphy for your question as well as suggestion. So I look forward to a great meeting in December. Moving on to item number 15, the Oso Bridge project. Dealing with the claims and amendment to the cooperative agreement. This item only pertains to Foothill Eastern, and staff is requesting resources to help with the closeout of the Oso Bridge project, whose opening was celebrated earlier this year. And Mr. Spears returns again. I don't know, Mr. Spears was so quiet for many years, he decided to wham us today. So Mr. Spears, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Chair Wong. This item was presented to the Joint Capital Committee on July 28th, and the committee recommended approval. The presentation includes an update regarding project status and a request for additional funding pursuant to project closeout activities. Next slide, please. For reference, the Oso Bridge project is located on 241 at the location shown in the blue box on this image. Next slide, please. This is a before and after view of the project looking south. On the left side is the before condition in 2018. On the right side, project conditions in January of this year when we opened the project. Next slide, please. Project status. As you're aware, we opened the project to traffic in January of this year. Since January, we've been working with Caltrans and with the contractor to finalize a number of punch list items. These items included changes to guardrailing, a crash attenuator, and additional roadway lighting. We had expected to complete all of these items by April of this year. However, there were delays in procuring required construction materials. We expect to complete the final items this month. Additional activities completed since February include support for the dispute resolution process, and I'll get into that in the coming slides. Next slide, please. So there are really two remaining tasks for this project. First, there is continuing work to resolve the construction claims. And second, there are administrative closeout tasks. Next slide, please. Construction claim status. The photos on this slide are images of the bridge soffit after the contractor had removed the forms. You can see that the forms were not properly cleaned before pouring the concrete. As you can see, there's debris, including plastic bottles and sawdust embedded in the concrete. The images also show unacceptable voids in the concrete. This defective work and the contractor's efforts to repair the defects led to a construction claim filed by the contractor. The contractor also filed a separate claim related to time-related overhead. The current status of the construction claims are as follows. The county compiled over 600 pages of documentation and prepared a position paper. The county presented this position paper at the Dispute Resolution Board meeting in May. There was a very extensive effort by the county's team, and the hard work produced positive results. The county and TCA received the DRB report on July 7th. The DRB's findings regarding both claims were in favor of the county's position. This is great news as it provides strong support for the positions presented by the county. In terms of next steps, there are two considerations. First, the DRB process is non-binding. Hence, in spite of the findings, the claims are not fully resolved. And second, we anticipate needing additional support from the county to bring final resolution for the claims. Next slide, please. There are two remaining administrative tasks. First, we need to amend the cooperative agreement to address final limits of right-of-way. The area shown in yellow on this image, south of the bridge, is currently owned by the County of Orange. The cooperative agreement between TCA and the county includes a provision to allow the area in yellow to be transferred to the state. However, based upon coordination with Caltrans and the county, it has been determined that this area, which is contiguous with Los Patrones Parkway, will remain county property. To formalize this disposition, an amendment to the cooperative agreement will be processed. Second, Once all of the punch list item work is final, the Caltrans encroachment permit will be finalized and closed. Pursuant to these remaining work items, there is a need for additional funding authorization regarding services provided by the county. The amounts requested are shown on the next slide. To finalize construction management field work, we are requesting $120,000. To finalize additional support for the construction claims over the next few months, we are requesting $60,000. Next slide, please. The recommendation before you is as follows. Authorize the CEO to amend the Oso Bridge Project Cooperative Agreement to provide the additional contract authorization necessary to finalize project closeout activities for an amount not to exceed $180,000. The second item authorizes a 5% contingency in the amount of $9,000. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any directors have any questions for Mr. Spears? I don't see any hands raised.
Madam Chair.
Okay, we'll move that item by Vice Chair Miller. And for the sake of time, I will second. Please take roll call vote.
Chair Wong,
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller,
Aye.
Alternate Goebel,
Yes.
Director Beal,
Aye.
Director Chafee,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Khan,
Yes.
Director Lombard,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Aye.
Director Trevor O'Neill,
Aye.
Director Penaloza, Director Taylor,
Aye.
Director Voigt,
Yes.
Director Wagner,
Aye.
looping back, Director Penaloza. Madam Chair, noting the absence of Director Penaloza, the item passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to number 16, our formal responses to the 2020-2021 Orange County Grand Jury Report. Our last business item is to finalize our responses to the grand jury report. While I am certain we all respect the work of the volunteers who serve on the grand jury, unfortunately, this report is the result of individuals who with ulterior motives or who may be misinformed as to the facts. I do want to thank our directors for participating in the discussions. Our staff worked to incorporate as much input as possible for our joint responses, but I'm sure this was no easy feat with 22 directors. So I ask each of you to consider the responses in light of the sheer number of directors who sit on both boards. Our Deputy CEO will provide a high-level overview of the report and our responses, which are attached in full to your agenda, with the hope we can avoid excessive wordsmithing. Once she is done, I will ask directors to share their thoughts on the responses and any significant changes they feel strongly about. If we have a consensus around substantive changes, staff will take the action to adjust accordingly before submitting it to the judge. With that, Ms. Ball, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Chair Wong. As Chair Wong noted, I'm Valerie McFall, the Deputy CEO for the agencies. The item before you today is the agency's formal responses to the Orange County Grand Jury Report, and we are seeking the board's approval to transmit the responses that are included in your agenda packet to the presiding judge of the Superior Court, as well as the grand jury as required. We move on to the next slide. So first, I'd like to start by providing the board with an overview of the Orange County Grand Jury Report that was released on June 21st of this year with a focus on the agencies. Within that report, the grand jury made 6 findings and provided 3 recommendations. While there's no requirement that the agencies implement any of the recommendations, the agencies are required to provide responses to the report's findings and recommendations within 90 days of the report's release. It is important to note that agencies are somewhat restricted in how it can respond, as the grand jury instructs that for each finding, TSA must indicate whether it 1, agrees, or 2, wholly or partially disagrees and then provide an explanation. For the report's recommendations, the grand jury instructs that TSA must indicate in its answers 1 of 4 possible responses that include whether 1, the recommendation has been implemented, or 2, has not yet been implemented, but will be in the future and provide a time frame, or 3, that the recommendation requires further analysis with an identified scope of study and a time frame of less than 6 months. Or the last choice would be the 4th one, and that would be that the recommendation would not be implemented because it is not warranted or feasible, and then providing an explanation. So as we work to prepare the responses before the board today, and as the chair noted, we incorporate as much input as possible for these joint responses. Finally, the agency's responses have been prepared to assist with providing clarification on some of the areas the grand jury may have not had all the information readily available to them. Next slide, please. The grand jury report included some notable highlights about the agencies, including recognition that the toll roads are a regional success and provide an essential service. They also congratulated the agencies on its delivery and operation of what they refer to as excellent roads. There are several instances where the grand jury made positive statements about our operations and stated that the grand jury was impressed with the agency's toll collecting systems and process management. And just as important, the grand jury acknowledged the agency's financial stability and the actions the boards are taking to reduce future interest payments by utilizing low interest rates. Next slide, please. Now moving on into the grand jury's reports, findings, and recommendations. These were really centered around 4 high-level areas. The first one being the agency's capital improvement program, its debt management, its revenue and cash management, and the structure of our agencies, suggesting that the Foothill Eastern and San Joaquin Hills agencies be merged into one agency. I will address each of these 4 areas on the following slides. Next slide, please. As far as the agency's capital improvement plan, or CIP, the grand jury's report did not account for the agency's fiscal year 22 CIP that was recently adopted at your June board meeting. Instead, the grand jury relied on last year's CIP when the board took a fiscally conservative action and reduced a number of capital projects due to the uncertainties around COVID. The current CIP for FY22 identifies the timing and funding of TCA projects, including the 24191 Express Connector, the 73 Catalina View widening, the 241 Loma widening, and other projects post-2035 that will continue to be evaluated by the boards. The agency's CIP is reviewed and adopted by the boards each year, and the projects that are included are based on the system's needs and the board's priorities to ensure there are free flow traffic conditions. Next slide, please. The report also made findings and recommendations related to the agency's debt without acknowledging each agency has adopted their own debt management policy that allows for financially feasible early bond payments or refundings that aid to decrease debt. For example, the Foothill Eastern Agency has saved over $600 million in recent bond refundings without extending bond maturity dates. The boards continue to take steps to reduce debt and evaluate options for early bond retirement while considering the need for system improvements and using cash to pay for those improvements, such as the recently completed Oso Bridge project. Next slide, please. For the findings and recommendations related to the agency's revenue and cash management, the forecasted revenue stated by the grand jury is attributable to the projections contained within the San Joaquin Hills 2013 refinancing and the Foothill Eastern's 2014 refinancing. This forecasted revenue does not reflect future board decisions, including early payment of bonds or capital expenditures for transportation infrastructure improvements or operational enhancements. In addition to not reflecting those future decisions, the practice of ensuring sufficient liquidity to weather future economic cycles was also not accounted for. The board's adopted debt management policies and priorities provide financial flexibility for current and future boards. Next slide. Their final category that the grand jury covered in the report is in regard to the agency structure and their finding a recommendation that the San Joaquin Hills and Foothill Eastern agencies merge into one singular agency. Each agency is their own separate legal entity that has issued non-recourse toll revenue bonds to pay for construction of their roadways. These bonds are only secured by toll revenues and diffs, and the bond indentures do not allow either agency to transfer any of this revenue to another entity while any of the agency's bonds remain outstanding. In order to merge the agencies, all outstanding bonds would need to be defeased or paid off. The cost of this process would greatly outweigh any potential benefits because a defeasance would require the issuance of new bonds to generate enough cash to be placed in an escrow to the call dates of the various bonds, making this process extremely expensive and all likelihood extending maturity dates beyond those of the existing bonds. Next slide, please. Beyond the report's findings and recommendations, the grand jury acknowledged the innovative financing the agencies used to construct the toll roads through its issuance of non-recourse toll revenue bonds and utilizing a public-private partnership model where the agencies issued bonds to private investors. With this model, there's no risk to taxpayers, the county, or the state. Instead, all risk is held by the private investor. This innovative financing method is now used as a model for other transportation agencies. Next slide. Notably, the grand jury underscores some important points about development impact fees, or DIFs, in their report, including how DIFs help defray costs of additional public infrastructure, that DIFs are not taxes, and they recognize that the agencies are required to collect DIFs until the bonds are retired. The grand jury also provided examples of other jurisdictions that use DIFs to offset the cost of these services or benefits that are provided. Next slide. The grand jury recognized the important role of the agencies, and specifically, they stated that to some extent, South County owes its success to the toll roads that were built in the absence of government funding. They also noted that if TCA had not funded the Oso Bridge, there would be no bridge there today. And then finally, the agency operations are managed by one common staff, and the grand jury noted that this avoids duplication and provides economies of scale. Next slide. The grand jury praised our toll operations staff by stating that toll operations are performed with a high degree of efficiency and attention to customer service. There's other quotes within the report, again, stating how impressed they were with our toll collecting systems and customer support functions. Next slide. Finally, at the end of the grand jury report, the grand jury provided the following commendations on the agencies. Again, stating that the TCA has built excellent roads with minimal tax dollars, that TCA runs a state-of-the-art toll collection operation, TCA is reducing future interest payments by taking advantage of low interest rates, and that TCA was responsive to the grand jury investigation and provided copious data extending many years into the past and the future. Next slide. Madam Chair, this concludes my overview of the grand jury's report on the agencies. And as I mentioned, our detailed responses are included in your agenda packet. At this time, it's recommended that each board authorize the CEO to submit the proposed formal responses to the Orange County Grand Jury's June 21st, 2021 report, findings and recommendations as required by the California Penal Code. I'm happy to answer any questions that you or the directors may have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for all your hard work. Really appreciate that you were able to incorporate a lot of our responses. With that, I will start with Supervisor Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm kind of at a loss because I think I agree in some parts with the introductory comments to thank the grand jury for their hard work, and without getting too much into detail with some of the disappointments in this particular grand jury that have been manifest over the last several months, this report in particular is disappointing to me. This inquiry from the grand jury. That said, I don't think that's a reason for us to respond as we have in one particular instance. The problem I have is that we say, it's on page 3 of the staff report, that the grand jury ignores projects that could fall in the $4 to $5 billion range. I know we were conservative in our CIP last year and less so this year, but that number, when I asked staff to dig into it, the response was, okay, we've got 450 million in the, or 400 million in the 24191, about 450 in some South County projects, but you're nowhere close to 4 to 5 billion. I was told, well, we've got to get better technology. We'll be doing some repairs and updating back office and signage and whatnot. For the life of me, I can't see how we get to 4.4 to $5 billion. And given that I think the fiscal analysis that this grand jury has done is somewhat limited, I don't think we need to just throw that dollar value up against the wall. I don't think it's a realistic one. And I would like that, at least that parenthetical, which could fall in the 4 to 5 billion range, removed. I don't think that's justified. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor. Vice Chair Miller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director Wagner. I had a same issue with that number. I didn't understand where it came from or how we were going to justify it. And I also asked staff if we could remove that. So I guess that's something this board can talk about. My other issue is on finding 3. When it talks about the total cost of our roads being $28 billion. I take issue with that because I don't believe that number is accurate. And we didn't respond to it in our response. And I guess, I don't know if Ms. Potter's on the line, I think she is, but Amy, if we were to continue on our current course today, we didn't do any more bond refis, we didn't pay down anything early, what would be the total cost of these roads at the end of the day?
Well, similar to what the grand jury stated, there are a number of ways you could consider costs, and I would actually just consider the cost, the actual construction cost that was stated by the grand jury, which was much lower. I think some people want to try to add in all of your interest costs. I'm not sure that's really the appropriate way to look at it. And I think
well, if we did, let's just say we did add it all in. Less than $28 billion.
Oh, yes.
No, that's my point. I mean, I think we need to clarify that because if we let that go, that almost looks like we agree that our total cost for roads is $28 billion, and that's just not accurate. And so I think that needs to be clarified somehow in that statement. I understand why we responded the way we did because that section of the report was actually more about revenue and things like that. And that question was kind of, I don't want to say it was misleading, but it really didn't apply to that part of the report. But I think since they asked it and they made that finding, we need to address it directly. And I would like us to put in whatever that accurate number is and what the total cost of the roads are going to be after you pay all the interest and everything off on it. If the board thinks that's the proper number, or do we just want to put the number of what it costs to physically build them? So those are my points. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair Miller. With that, I will turn to Valerie to respond to, or Samuel to.
Yeah. Absolutely, Madam Chair. So in regards to what Supervisor Wagner and Director Miller pointed out, our Chief Engineer, Mr. Spears, can explain a little more regarding the calculation of the number we have there in the 4 to 5 billion. I will just briefly highlight that the intent of us including that number was to counter the grand jury's statements within the body of the report where they were implying that TCA was collecting, I think they noted, $10 billion that was not needed. So we wanted to make sure we provided some context that not only made those projections not play out exactly as we envisioned, because there's 30 years left to go, but their lack of recognition of our CIP and the future use of the medians in the roads to do our widenings to provide that additional capacity for free flow conditions, that was overlooked. But I'll ask Mr. Spears to share some brief explanation of how we got to the $4 to $5 billion number.
Thank you, Samuel. So a little background on how we got to that number. That number includes, we looked at what the ultimate configuration of the roads is, and it would add 85 miles of lane additions, 50 bridge widenings, and interchange improvements and typical support components. So if constructed today, to do that ultimate build out would be under $2 billion. But if it was not built until 2045, the escalated cost over 25 years grows that number considerably, and you could be up in the $4 billion range. So that's the brief background on how we got to those numbers.
So hopefully that addresses those questions, Madam Chair, and ultimately, if the board as a whole decide you want us to remove that statement, we can remove it. But I wanted to make sure the board understood why staff had included it. In regards to the statements on F3, in that finding, yeah, it was unclear to us, Director Miller, why the grand jury worded their finding in this fashion, because it didn't line up with all the support in the detailed body of all the support for that finding in the detailed body of the report. So we focused on what the report as a whole was talking about, as Ms. Potter noted, which was our revenue projections over this 60-year life of the agency. So that's what we were denoting. If the board thinks we should have some information regarding the breakout of principal and interest for the construction, we can include that, but I will note that those calculations are already within the grand jury's report in the body of their report.
Okay. Thank you. Alternate Goebel.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to note on behalf of Supervisor Bartlett that prior to the meeting, she shared the same concern as the two other directors stated about the $4 to $5 billion, and also asked CEO to remove that number. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Wagner.
Yeah, I got to push back a little bit still on that $4 to $5 billion number. As I heard the explanation, in part, that would be, an inflation adjusted and projection of construction cost number if we put things off way down the line somewhere. And I read it, and I think it should be read as current estimates. We may have a $450 million projected for some South County projects, and if we don't do them for 10 years, costs are going to go up. But we wouldn't say that if it goes up $200 million, that it's $700 million. We would say, or $600 million. We're given current numbers, and even the explanation we got today says the $4 to $5 billion is not the current estimate. So I think we're playing fast and loose with financing here. If we assume way down the road that we end up doing this, that's all. I don't think it's a fair representation of the current situation. It's a worst case scenario without being identified as a worst case scenario based on a whole bunch of factors outside of our control. So it ought to come out.
All right, thank you, Supervisor Wagner. Director Medigar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to concur with what Supervisor Wagner said. To me, it's premature. I mean, I'm going to be asking Dave Spears that, okay, is he using CPI to jack up the $2 billion to 4 to 5 billion, or is he using an average of 2.5% inflation rate compounded annually for 25 years? It is going to be extremely misleading. I do acknowledge that the construction costs, not only in California, but also in the US, is going to be rising regardless. But at this juncture, I think is very premature and is going to portray a different perception for the people that would be reading, our responses to the grand jury. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, CEO Johnson.
Yeah, so thank you, Madam Chair. I think the directors are making a good point. If you would like us to cite our current projected costs, if we were to do those projects today and caveat that by citing that inflation and when those projects are actually delivered could result in a higher number, we can do that. Staff had thought about that initially, but since the grand jury report was pointing to future revenues, we were pointing to those future costs. But if that's what the board would like us to do and focus on our current cost estimates, if the work was done today, I think that's a reasonable request.
Yeah, in listening to the comments, and they're very good comments, I think what Supervisor Wagner and everybody else is trying to say is the credibility of TCA is very important, and we don't want to overinflate our numbers, that we cannot justify with current data or even, what we think is future data. So it's better to be credible, give good number rather than, future projection. I happen to like footnotes, so it might be one of those, here's the current projection, put a footnote in and saying future, costs would ultimately be in the price range. So that it might capture more of what Supervisor Wagner is saying, that, we need to be accurate and be credible, or leave it out and then explain it as well in a footnote. Director Murphy?
Yeah, just very quickly, I think the simple way, I'm okay with just leaving it out, quite candidly, and then letting somebody ask and give an accurate answer at the time. But if the majority of the body thinks that some number should stay in, just put the number as we estimate it in today's dollars and just put $2021 in parentheses, so that there's no question that's in today's dollars if everything was done today. And don't get into projecting, gosh, what year is it and what's the CPI and what are we using, and a bunch of where folks have to go anywhere else. Assume the statement itself is going to stand on its own and somebody's going to cut and paste it. That's what the most I think we should give in detail, but I'm inclined to agree with other comments that it's not necessary for the response in terms of validity and what we're trying to accomplish with this particular document.
All right. In looking that we don't really have any request to keep it in, I'm more inclined to agree that we just leave it out.
Yeah, if that's part of the motion, Madam Chair.
And I don't think it really changes the response in any way. I don't think it would change anything in terms of meaningful response. It's just an added number, but the response is adequate, I think.
Again, Madam Chair, if that's what the board feels is best, from staff's perspective, we thought it was important to counter this notion that we are collecting $10 billion that we'll never need.
I see. And so that's point well taken, that we don't want to give the perception of the fact that we have $10 billion that we don't need. So I think I'm going to suggest to everybody that we will take Director Murphy's happy middle of the road suggestion of current 2021 dollars and leave it at that. So, but I will do an informal poll. Can I do that? Where raise your hand if you object to that. Can I do that?
You can. It's not a formal vote, though.
It's not a formal vote. I just want to know if everybody's okay with that. Just, click yes, you're okay with Director Murphy's suggestion.
Raise your hand if you're not.
Raise your hand if you do not agree with Director Murphy.
Madam Chair, can I get a clarification on that? What are we going to put in there? That says $4 to $5 billion. Those are not in 2021 dollars.
Oh, no. To put in current dollar amount, which is
right. Mr. Spears, please correct me if I don't have the range accurately. I think it's 1.4 to 1.9 billion in today's dollars?
5.7.
1517.
Yeah. So
So,
we'll just put current 2021 dollars at 1.5 to 1.7 billion.
That's correct.
So you want us to raise our hand if we don't agree with that?
Yeah, but I think, yeah. That's my indirect poll. So I don't have any, and so I don't have any 4 out of how many people? 22. I don't want to confuse my indirect poll with comments.
4 out of 20.
Okay, 4 out of 20. So then it looks like we'll just have it at the proposed language that Director Murphy says of current dollars. All right. So if you'll lower your hands and then raise your hands if you have a comment. With that, I'm going to start with Director Chafee.
Yes, thank you. I think any number in there is subject to some speculation. I'm just wondering if the list of projects, although it's unknown when they would be done, the bridge widenings and all that sort of stuff, instead of dealing in dollars, so we describe the projects that are anticipated in the future, which shows a need for funding that way. And the grand jury number is escalated based on inflation. And if we do have a number in there, I think it needs to be said that it's not adjusted for inflation, but is in current dollars. It needs to be stated clearly as to what it is. But I'm wondering if we shouldn't talk about anticipated uses. That's kind of impressive when you look at all those things that I heard listed. That's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Wagner.
Just a sticking point, if we put in current dollars, but the grand jury is using inflated future dollars, we're again talking apples to oranges. And that's why I think it's better to just leave out the number, because as it stands, there's their $10 billion projection and our 1.5 to 3 or whatever it was projection. And that's similarly misleading to the public and frankly to the grand jury in terms of our response.
Well, and let me ask you this, Supervisor Wagner. I think that the question really that's posed is, so members of the public is going to take this $10 billion of projected revenue and say they don't need that, and that's just, stealing from the public. How would you respond to that if you don't think we should respond with any numbers?
I would respond by saying that their number is grossly inflated for the following reasons and let it go at that. But I don't want to oversell the importance of the grand jury report. To be honest, most people aren't going to pay any attention to it. We aren't required to do anything other than respond formally. It's not going to change, nor should it change, the way we do business, because they haven't identified any significant flaws in that, which is again part of my disappointment with the grand jury. So I don't know that it really needs to be much belabored, other than maybe an asterisk, a footnote, or something that says, hey, that grand jury 10 billion isn't a real 10 billion, and let it go at that. But what I wouldn't want to do is leave that number alone in the report and then have our number, our lower number, which is the more appropriate number, because there does seem then to be that disconnect, that apples to oranges thing. So.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Samuel and I had the conversation that what Director Chafee just recommended, that we don't put a number in there, but list some of our projects that show we do have future needs. We don't have to put a number on it. In terms of the 10 billion, if you go down to finding 5, it actually, the grand jury found that these roads are probably never going to be free. And we agreed with them. And we don't think they're ever going to be free. If they turn over to Caltrans or whoever gets them, they're probably going to have some kind of tolling component on it. That alone is enough to address that $10 billion. They're going to be generating revenue off those roads into the future, and that money's going somewhere. And so I'm not as concerned about the $10 billion number that they've inflated out there. And I understand that's where their 28 billion came from and why we didn't want to put our number on it of whatever our number is for our cost, because it shows that number and it's in their report. But I think that if we try to read the report as a whole, I think it's already been addressed by the grand jury itself, saying the roads will never be free. There's always going to be additional revenue there. Even when the roads are paid off, it's still generating revenue. How do we address that? Right? I mean, so I think you leave the number off. The $10 billion, I don't think really matters. People are it's there anyway. People can address it however they want. But I think we still haven't addressed the fact that there's an inaccuracy in this report that we are not correcting. $28 billion is not the real number on the cost of these roads. So I think that needs to be addressed. I don't think the $10 billion is that big of an issue. Look at the toll roads around the country that are still generating revenue. They're not free because you still have to maintain the roads. What are you going to do with that money? So that's my comments. I think we should just leave the number off for the projects. List some projects if you want to, don't put a cost with it, and correct that 28 billion.
Yes, please unmute. Thank you, Director Miller. They always tell you that, and I should have just listened to George and not do my straw poll. But then again, going back and forth, I really do think that Director Wagner and Vice Chair Miller have brought up really good, important points, as well as Supervisor Chafee. So kind of like, I like to do a happy medium proposal for everyone, and I'll make that as my motion in adopting the responses. Thank you. Is that I think we should leave out the $4 billion. Let's just leave the numbers out. But I do like the suggestion of, I don't remember if it's Supervisor Chafee or Vice Chair Miller, that we would maybe do a footnote of those projects, future projects, and not put a number to it, but just to let at least people know, even though I do agree, nobody will read it, but we have it in writing that, hey, look, yes, you may think $10 billion is just, unused money that we're somehow pocketing, but we do have these projects in the pipeline and things that we're obligated to do. And so that would be my motion to have us adopt the responses with the recommendation that I just made. So I'm looking for a second to my motion. Huh? Is it Foothill? No.
No, you're on
I'm only on Foothill. So sorry, I'm making the motion on my side. Sorry, on the Foothill side.
We can still go. We can go.
Are we going to even address the $28 billion number for total cost of the roads that is inaccurate? We're going to let that go?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't look down at my note. I got caught up on the first point. Thank you. So I guess the question is whether or not, directors, do you think we need to have the breakout between the actual construction cost and interest, or do we combine it as a response?
Yeah, we can look at that a few different ways if the board wants us to add a little more color in citing that, and we can definitely point back to what the grand jury has in its own report to counter the $28 billion cost.
What do you think about that, Vice Chair Miller?
However we want to do it, but I think we do need to put an actual, we can point back to them, though I think their report said the actual cost was $18 billion. And that's where they got the $28 billion, where the $10 billion delta comes in. Is that correct, Samuel? Is that what was in there? I don't have.
Yeah, that's my general recollection, but I'm gonna look to, our deputy CEO to make sure I got the numbers in my head.
Yeah, they have a cumulative revenue of 28 billion. That's where they got it from. And that's with toll fees, development impact fees, investment and revenue. So it's their projections from now till future years projected.
That's revenue. What about our cost of the road?
Yeah. I thought they had a table laying out our principal and interest payments.
Yes, they have 15.7 million or billion, 15.7 billion for the debt service.
Well, we should point that out, that is the total cost of the road, not $28 billion.
Okay, so we can add that.
When you have an inaccuracy, you can point out that they made a mistake, and this is very misleading. We need to be able to correct that.
Okay, we can add that to S3, the response.
Thank you, Vice Chair Miller. Great suggestion. So those are the two suggestions that we will put in for our finding 3, and that will be my motion on behalf of Foothill. I'm looking for a second by Vice Chair Miller. Should I do San Joaquin Hills now, or we'll just go ahead with Foothill?
Yeah, just do the Foothill. Yeah.
Okay, we'll do the Foothill vote first. Madam Clerk?
Chair Wong?
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller?
Aye.
Alternate Goebel?
Yes.
Director Beal? Director Chafee?
Aye.
Director Kelly?
Yes.
Director Khan?
Yes.
Director Lombard?
Yes.
Director Murphy?
Aye.
Director Trevor O'Neill?
Aye.
Director Penaloza? Director Taylor?
Aye.
Director Voigt? Director Wagner?
Aye.
Looping back, Director Beal?
Sorry, aye.
Director Penaloza? Director Voigt? Madam Chair, noting the absence of Director Penaloza and Director Voigt, the item passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. And seeking the motion from the San Joaquin Board.
Cynthia Connors, I'll make the
Taylor, I'd make
motion.
the same motion.
All right, so we have Director Connors making the motion and second by Director Taylor. Please take roll vote.
Chair Kelly?
Yes.
Vice Chair Will O'Neill? Alternate Goebel?
Yes.
Director Connors?
Yes.
Director Heft?
Yes.
Director Hurt?
Yes.
Director Khan?
Yes.
Director Minigar?
Aye.
Director Penaloza? Alternate Stevens?
Yes.
Director Taylor?
Aye.
Director Vic Sorick?
Madam Clerk, this is Director Miller. Director Vic Sorik's gone. I'm his alternate, and I'll vote aye.
Noted, thank you. Director Wagner?
Aye.
Looping back, Vice Chair Will O'Neill? Director Penaloza? Madam Chair, noting the absence of Vice Chair Will O'Neill and Director Penaloza, the item passes unanimously.
All right, thank you very much, Director, for your input and discussion. Really appreciate that. And so we will incorporate those responses suggested today and send it off. Madam Clerk, do we have any additional public comments?
Madam Chair, we do not at this time.
Okay, with that, we will now move into our closed session. Oh, I need to adjourn the public.
No.
CEO report.
CEO report.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. No problem. Just for the entire board's information, just 3 quick items, Madam Chair. So first, as we've shared through your Joint Finance Committee and updates I provided to other board members, our traffic and revenue
continues to recover from the impacts of the pandemic. Foothill Eastern has been about 95% of pre-pandemic levels, and San Joaquin at about 88%. So for July, the first month of our fiscal year, this actually put us about 10% above budget, which is a very positive start. Also, in conjunction with this, our customer base continues to grow, and we are back to gaining more than 1,000 new account holders every day. In July, we added more than 30,000 new accounts. And by your next board meeting, we should have attained a new milestone of having over 2 million accounts. So our communications team is working on celebrating this event and our 2 millionth account holder once we identify that. And we're providing some funded gifts, some gifts for that account holder. And those gifts are being funded personally by members of the executive team. So nothing from your budget. So again, we're off to a really good start, but we remain cautiously optimistic due to the ongoing impacts and potential new impacts of the pandemic. Lastly, as I communicated to the Foothill Eastern Board 2 weeks ago on July 30th, we received favorable rulings from the court on the remaining 3 claims that were part of the City of San Clemente's lawsuit against TCA, Caltrans, and the environmental groups. This should bring resolution to the lawsuit in its whole, with all 13 claims by the city now being dismissed with TCA as the prevailing party. The court noted in its ruling that the city's arguments were without merit and focused on some future event that might not ever occur, echoing the board's sentiment that this lawsuit was not warranted. Hopefully this chapter is coming to a close and staff can continue our efforts and our focus on advancing the board's priority for funding your capital improvement projects and reducing your debt. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Right, thank you. Moving on to director's reports and new business. Chair Kelly, do you have any reports or new business?
Sorry, I'm trying to get my mute off. No, I don't, but I do want to just acknowledge all the work that the staff went into on the grand jury report response, and thank all the directors for all of your input as well. And it was a very time-consuming, thus expensive project, but I think it was well done. And I congratulate Mr. Johnson and the TCA on the record numbers of account holders. That's really good news to hear. It means that we're filling a need. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, and I will echo the sentiment shared by Chair Kelly. Thank you to all of you directors for your input, your time in helping us formulate the responses to the grand jury, including today's comments. And I want to thank staff for your hard work in incorporating those responses into a coherent manner. And so I really appreciate that. With that, we will move on to closed session now, because we have now concluded our business items. So General Counsel, can you please take us into closed session?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We will first be convening a joint closed session of the Foothill Eastern and San Joaquin Hills boards to confer with legal counsel regarding existing litigation under subdivisions A and D1 of Government Code Section 54956.9. The 3 matters listed on the agenda: In re Toll Roads litigation, Associated Industries Insurance Company versus San Joaquin Hills et al., and Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor Agency et al. Versus certain underwriters at Lloyd's, etc. We will then be convening a separate closed session for Foothill Eastern only, and that will be a conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, subdivisions A and D1 of Government Code 54956.9. 2 items noted in the agenda: the Reserve Maintenance Corporation versus Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor Agency et al., and City of San Clemente versus Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor Agency et al. We do not anticipate reportable action.
Okay, thank you. With that, if everybody just hang on to their monitors, and we will move you into closed session. full action?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, with that, we will adjourn to our next meeting on September 10th. 9th, I'm sorry.
9:30.
At 9:30. Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation today. Have a great day. Now we can end.